Okay, so we're here for another episode of Shits and Giggles.
Giggles and shit. Sup?
Shits and Giggles. Now, remember, we're here for my therapeutic purposes, not for your entertainment. But if you so happen to be entertained by this, then it's a win-win for everyone. And to anyone we have not yet offended, please be patient because we will get to you shortly. I feel like that's guaranteed. Little by little,
Not
we'll get
really.
away.
I don't think we've offended enough people. I haven't seen too many
We,
comments or
we
things in our chat. So
got
clearly,
to,
clearly we're not offending enough people and we ain't saying enough shit to piss people off. So I don't think we said enough to piss people off.
do
Maybe
things
they agree with maybe
today.
they're agreeing with a lot of the shit we say. I don't know.
So I want to start off by thanking everyone for their support and for the feedback, especially. I really appreciate the feedback, all of it, whether it's positive or negative. We appreciate constructive criticism, right? We're people that can take that. We're not people that take everything as an attack. So, we're strong-minded people. We're critical thinkers, and we appreciate constructive criticism. So, thank you for all the feedback that we've been getting. Like, subscribe, share, please, and thank you. Thank you. So, how have you been?
Aside from not defending our championship, I've been fine. Work has been extremely busy. Did I just say that we didn't win our championship? Yeah. But you know what? If there's any silver lining, at least we didn't lose in the semifinals or finals to make us think we had a chance. We got eliminated early and made it real quick and easy. It's like a quick death.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
wasn't a slow drawn out death. It was a quick death. They put it to us and we were done.
and I can say that people don't really understand the importance of that because I was not an athlete coming up. I did a little bit of sports. I dabbled in a little bit of track and field and shit like that, but I was not an athlete, like a trained athlete coming up. You know what I mean? I did figure skating, I did ballet, I did gymnastics, can't fucking swim for shit, right? And I did track and field, but I'm not an athlete. I never considered myself an athlete. But I can say, you told me this before I joined the softball team. You told me that winning is addictive, right? And I never really understood that concept until I started playing softball. And I started playing softball at a late age. I was almost 31. It was a month before my 31st birthday when um, I joined the softball team with work, and we won the championship in our first season. So, being that that was my first experience and winning the championship, I wanted nothing less after that. So I understand the concept now, where I didn't understand it before. When you told me, I had not been playing sports, so I wouldn't have understood, right? But coming from a
Mhm.
place of experiencing it now, I do understand. And I can definitely say I've learned a lot about myself in the 16 years that I've been playing softball now. I'm very competitive, right? And I want to win. Now, I might not show it as much as other people, but I I want to win, and I'm very competitive, and I do get disappointed when certain things don't play out the way we want them to.
You get disappointed, I get downright mad. So um,
It's
it is what
different,
it is.
though. It's a little different for you because you're not just playing on the team, you're managing the team. So it's a different level of frustration for you because you have to deal with all this other bureaucracy on top of everything else, right? Where everybody else on the team, it's just about the wins and the losses,
They
right?
just gotta show up and they just gotta show up and
Go
play.
up and play, right? You have to do all the behind the scenes stuff and work out our lineup and fielding assignments and chase people for fees and stuff like that, and make sure that people are showing up to games because we have a group chat where you'll send out a message. I'm just adjusting my camera
Can you
here.
stop playing with your phone, man?
Yeah, because my it wasn't adjusted properly with my lighting
You're
and
making
everything.
me freaking dizzy. Can you like stop? Feel like I'm
Apologize.
in some kind of psychedelic friggin', like when they
You
show those 70s thing when somebody took some kind of stoner type drugs and the shit starts going all sideways and shit. That's what I'm
this
feeling like right now with your
time
friggin'
for
screen.
drugs, kid.
I'm not saying I'm taking drugs. I said that's what it almost feels like
I
when they're showing people that were on a
never
psychedelic shit.
say that you are. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Anyways, back to that. I want to thank you for all the work that you and all the work that you have put in because it has been 16 years that you've been leading this team and you've led this team through different leagues, right? We've won championships in different leagues. And this year was a very disappointing year. This year was a very disappointing year. We had our championship tournament or our playoff tournament last year or last week, and we didn't play up to par. That's the long and short of it. We didn't play up to par. We didn't come in there with a championship attitude, you know what I mean? Defending our championship. We didn't come in there with that attitude. I had that attitude in my mind, right? But at the end of the day, that's not what translated on the field.
Well, in all fairness, it's not just you. I felt like the team as a whole came in as I'm king of the hill. We're going to get this done regardless. And being a former athlete, you always have to keep training like you're in the number two position in order to stay at number one. Because the day you're not hungry, because I don't know, I watched all the other games. The teams don't play them each other as hard as they played us. You know why they played us hard? Because we're the defending champs. So they went all in. All the players showed up. Guys were hitting. Guys were catching stuff that they don't even catch. I watched a championship game. They played good, but they didn't play as hard as they played us. Like they went all in on us. And I said I respect that because I would do the same thing. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
playing a championship team, I'm taking no prisoners. I want everything. So I think our team needed to understand the fact that yeah, last year's batting stats don't get you a batting championship this season, and that's where we fall short.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It is what it is. It's a life lesson, and you move on from that, right?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we ended the season the same way we started with shitty defense, right? I can honestly say it was a collective effort at losing that championship, at not
Hmm.
eating the championship. It was a collective effort. We can't blame one or two or three people. Everybody fucked up defensively, right? And our bats weren't there. Our bats
Your
weren't there.
bats wasn't. I was hitting. I
Oh,
hit.
yeah, you did, yes. But it's a team effort at the end of the day.
I know,
One
total team effort, but don't say
man
our bats. I said some of our bats wasn't there, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna take
all
away from that.
collectively, we all collectively effed up defensively, right? And that's what really killed us. That's what really, really killed us. Because we would have stayed in those games had we not effed up defensively. So it is what it is.
But on to the next. As I was saying before, I got a ton of stuff on the go. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. Um, Sending prayers out to an individual that's on my team who's currently in ICU. Just it makes you think about things a little bit different. So I wish him a speedy recovery. I hope he's well. And yeah,
Okay. Yes, definitely prayers out. That's a lot. That's a lot. On top of everything else you have to deal with as a manager, that's a lot. That's a lot. Especially when you're a person that actually cares, that genuinely cares. Because there's a lot of managers out there that don't care, right? They only care between the certain hours that they're reporting for. You know what I mean?
you want to hear something crazy? I think being a coach, being a team captain, being all that has helped me be a better manager because you learn to deal with disappointment. You learn to deal with the good. You learn to deal with the bad. And when you're a coach, you're seeing everything. You even learn to even kind of be a social, um, not a social worker, but more like a mentor, because you're starting to hear things. Sometimes you uncomfortable things you don't want to hear, but you hear it anyways because people tell you. So then that prepares you that when you go into a role like this and you start hearing even more traumatic things, you kind of say, okay, what can I do to help this individual, or where am I going to go to
Yeah.
help this individual? Because that's where your mind goes first. Um, Currently, it's funny. There's guys on my team that when I wasn't their manager, I wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. I couldn't stand them. But that mentality had to change if I'm becoming their manager. And now I defend those same guys like me and them were brothers. And I mean, it's the mentality of looking out for them first, making sure they're doing the right thing. So I'm not going to defend you if you're doing a bad job. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. With that being said, I make sure you're doing the correct thing. And if you're not doing the correct thing, I'll say, hey, I'll have a chat with this individual, and then I ream them out on the back end. But I will never do that in front of anybody else, or make them feel bad in front of another department. It'll be a mano conversation, and we go from there. So all those type of things I think has helped me. And I would say softball actually helped me in that regards in terms of dealing with the ups and the downs.
And I think that is a respect thing, right? And respect is important. When you're in a leadership role, you're dealing with, you have a team. You're leading a team, right? And you're only as strong as your weakest link when it comes to a team environment. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So as a
Correct.
manager, it's your job to motivate your team to be the best that they can be and be as successful as they can be. And that reflects positively on you as a manager, right? That's your position, that's your job. A lot of managers don't understand that. A lot of managers do not understand what leadership really, really takes. They're only in it for the prestige or for the money or for what have you, right? They don't really care about the role itself. So they're not looking to make their team better. They don't understand that their success is based on their team's success, right? They don't give a shit. They're just in the role because, it's prestige to them. So
And I
it's
think
that you understand that and you appreciate that, and that's important to you.
I think the biggest thing is not expecting everybody to do what you did. Everybody's an individual, everybody's different. And I remember I had a managers meeting once, and one of the guys in there said, well, when I was on the road as an appraiser, I did blah, 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 blah. I said, well, maybe you're exceptional. I said, I used to be a track and field athlete. I used to be able to run 10-4 in the 100 meters. I can't come out here and I tell everybody, well, because I did it, I expect everybody out here to come out here and do the exact same thing. It's just not reasonable. If you're exceptional, that's great. What does the average guy do? Now, if your individual is not meeting the average expectation, now there's a need for concern because you're not even meeting the average. If
Right.
you're above average, that's a different conversation. Then maybe you reward the individual, you talk to the individual and say, hey, congratulations for doing a great job, you're going over and above. But if people are meeting their targets, I mean, you can't beat them up because they're not hitting your own mental targets. That doesn't make any sense. Um,
True.
yeah, you got to give people a chance to succeed at the end of the day.
And it's funny you say that because I think that's a lot of a misperception that people have, or a misconception that people have with me. When I say certain things, I think that I expect them to be like me, and that's not the case at all. I understand on a different level that I think differently from most people. I act differently from most people. I move differently from most people. So when I say something, I'm not expecting everybody else to think how I think. I'm not expecting everybody else to do what I do because I know I'm so different from everybody else, right? And I feel like that's why it's important. Let's segue into this communication thing. That's why it's so important when you're communicating with another individual to listen carefully. What is the point of your communication? If the communication is on the surface, then that's one thing. But if you actually care about the communication you're having with the person, it's important for you to listen to understand what that person is saying, as opposed to listening just to respond, right? Because you're not really taking in what's being said to you. You just want to buff up your chest and respond. You know what I mean? I found
Yeah,
out a
we
little
we
uh,
we talk about it. We talk about it all the time. Listen for comprehension, not just for listening for response. Um, we see that in our society, people do it all the time. How many times have you had a conversation where somebody, and they start talking over you because all they heard is one or two words and they're down your throat. They don't need to hear anything else. They're down your throat, and you're like, then you pause and you let them finish. Say, can I go now? You start talking, you say to you, and they're down your throat again. It's like, yo, can you shut up? Can you let me finish? You're only hearing the first two syllables. It might sound negative, but hear me out. If you fully hear me out, you're going to understand where I'm going with this. But I find a lot of people don't do that. They hear a few words and they go off on their tangent. And then when you get upset with them, now they're upset. Well, you never let me finish. If I can't finish my conversation, we can't have a conversation and I'm done.
It's true. It's true. Because what am I responding to? What am I responding to when I already said what I had to say and you're not even listening to what I had to say? And now you've gone on a different tangent that has nothing to do because you weren't listening to what I said. Now you've taken it the wrong way and you've gone off on this tangent. Like, am I going to respond to that? Or am I just going to leave it alone? Because clearly you're not on the same frequency. You're not on a high enough frequency to understand the position that I'm at or to even carry on this conversation in an objective manner, right? You can't
You
be
know what it
objective.
is?
You can't be objective if you're not listening.
So here's what I find in a lot of those type of scenarios. When people don't respect what you have to say, they like to interject and talk over you, right? And I've seen it time and time again. So that's why whenever someone starts talking over me, I'll stop and I'll fold my arms and I'll go like this. And they're like, "You're not going to say anything?" I'm like, "You're doing the talking for both of us. Continue. Seems like you have all the freaking answers. Go for it." "Oh, you don't have to be rude." I'm like, "You're talking over me and you're calling me rude." I'm like, Pop calling the kettle black. I'm like, if I really wanted to be rude, you'd know I'm being rude. I'm actually not being rude. I'm actually stopping myself from really laying into you. That's why I'm
Yeah.
sitting here folding my arms and not engaging. Me folding my arms means I'm not engaging. That's all that means. I'm closed off from you because at this point you're not listening to what we're not having a communication here. You're more blah 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 blah, and not hearing what I have to say. So that's fine. Then I'm done. My conversation's over. I'm no longer We're no longer communicating in an adult manner. It's you rambling and me just kind of sitting here twiddling my thumbs or whatever you want to think I'm doing, and I'm not really paying attention to you at that point.
And
I'm not going to waste my energy.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you said that because there was some feedback that I received that in our sessions here that I cut you off frequently, right? When you're speaking. And I feel like I know you well enough to know that if I was cutting you off to an extent that you felt a way about it or you felt like you were being disrespected, that's exactly what you described is exactly what you do. You just sit back and you're like, okay, you go. I'm done. You go. Right. So again, that's why I say I appreciate the feedback. I will look at things and I'll be cognizant of things. But at the same time, I do understand that everybody's an individual and this platform isn't for everyone, right? We're not for everyone. We have to say how we present it is not for everyone, right? So especially not for people who are too sensitive or anything like that. Like if you're sensitive, this is not the platform for you. If you're overly sensitive, this is not the platform for you because I'm sensitive and I can take a lot of shit. So if you are offended, no, well, I shouldn't say offended. Offended. If you feel like, I'm going to put it like this. If I feel disrespected by you, I'm going to say something. If you feel disrespected by me, you're going to say something. So as long as we're not expressing that to each other, we're good, right? So anybody who's offended by the way that we deal with each other, that's what it is. That's why we have the disclaimer at the beginning. For anyone we have not yet offended, please be patient. We'll get to you shortly, right? Our intention is not to offend anybody, but we are too opinionated over here, right? And we're going to express our opinions accordingly over here. This is a safe space for us.
To be honest, I don't give a shit if I offend anybody. And
Right.
the reason why I say that is people don't give a shit if they offend me. You know what I mean? Like I live my life in a way where if you need to say something, I mean within reason. I mean you don't go out there to hurt people's feelings, and you're not going out there to trample on things. But if there's social issues going on and you're too much of a pussy to come out and say what you want to say, then you can kiss my ass straight up, right? Because I don't give a shit about your feelings because it's a social issue. Um, when you do a platform, it's meant to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
So I'll give you this. I'll give you this example. When the whole Colin Kaepernick, when he was doing the kneeling, people were like, "Why is he doing it at a game?" I'm like, "Would you prefer him to do it in his bedroom? Would anybody pay attention to him if he was filming a thing in the middle of his bedroom, kneeling down at the national anthem?" They'll probably just call him a sicko or some weird pervert, whatever. Get out of here, and they wouldn't pay him any attention. His message would get lost, right? Because he's in his bedroom, it's his place of comfort. Nobody gives a shit. He did it in a place where it's an open platform. I get it. It makes people uncomfortable because it's the national anthem. Americans are really big on national anthem. I would say a few other things, but I'm not going to tackle that tonight.
Amer- Americans are very big on patriotism.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So, in order for him to get his message out for people to actually listen to him, he did it while kneeling at the national anthem. And look, it became a big thing. Like I think there's still some people still doing it before certain games for different causes.
But
So
look how long, right? They were chastising him for that. They were chastising him for that for years,
mhm.
years. He got blackballed for that shit. And nobody followed suit until George Floyd. Nobody followed suit until George Floyd. When George Floyd was murdered, that's when other people and other athletes started to follow suit and take the knee. Nobody was doing that shit before. They were all calling out Kaepernick before that, right? And wanting to judge him by his ethnicity. Oh, well, you're only half black. Ray Tay Tay, blah, 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 blah. Give me a break. The man was an
I even heard guys go as far as saying if he's on my team, I'm beating the shit out of him. I've heard guys go that far, saying, "Hey, if he's on my team and I catch him kneeling, I'm breaking his knees." I'm like, guys, why, why,
That's
why?
the problem with people, right? They're bandwagon jumpers. A lot of people are bandwagon jumpers. A lot of people are not willing to stand up for the cause and be the lone wolf doing it, right? I'm okay doing that. You're okay doing that. But a lot of people don't have that strength and resilience, right? And that confidence to do that. They'll follow suit until they see that okay, other people are moving for this cause. I'll move for this cause too. They need to see somebody else doing it in order for them to stand up. We're not those people, right? I can't. I personally can't relate to that shit. If I see something like I'm an advocate, I'm an advocate by nature. If I see some shit that's not right, I'm standing up for that regardless, right? I'm gonna say something regardless. And I have people that try to like, oh, you just want to argue about. No, I don't want to argue about stuff, but I don't like injustice, right? I've never liked to see people treated unfairly.
Agree.
Never. There's never been a part of me that was okay with that. I've always been anybody who's known me over the years has known that I will stand up for the underdog, right? And people who are close to me will criticize me and chastise me for being a martyr, right? Because I will stand up for injustice. I will stand up for the underdog, even if I'm the only voice speaking. I will sacrifice myself because I just can't let it go down like that. And that's who I am. And no matter how much I'm told, save yourself, save yourself, save yourself. That's not who I am as a person. That is not who I am as a person. So I can't feel good about just like abandoning the situation that I feel is an injustice to a number of people and just to save
So
myself.
So, and I'm going to touch on something else now. And this is what I would definitely say bothers me. It's the individuals that say, well, it doesn't affect me right now, so I don't give a shit. Okay, it doesn't affect you.
Hmm.
You have kids. Maybe you
Hmm.
do, maybe you don't. You have nieces and nephews. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But think about that. They're going to have kids. So some of the decisions that you make today are going to affect them tomorrow. So you should think and say, maybe this will affect me. Maybe not you directly, it's going to affect your family members. Don't you give a shit about your family members? Your kids, your nephews, maybe even potentially grandkids one day. Shouldn't that be something that you take a stand on for certain things and say, hey, this might not be the right decision for us as people, instead of just saying, well, I don't give a shit. It doesn't affect me. There's a lot of things that don't affect me now per se, but I understand the whole picture. Take this for instance. Right now, we're in a financial crisis. A lot of people don't have enough money to even buy canned goods. I can honestly say I'm in a okay position, but that doesn't make me uncognizant of the fact that there's people suffering out there and they legit need help. If I can help them, I will try my best to help them. Because guess what? Here's the bigger picture now. What happens when people can't eat? Where do you think people spill over to when they can't eat? They don't go after rich people because rich people have gates and fence, and the police come out to help them. They go to
Right.
your house. They go to my house. They go to your
Yep.
apartment. They go to my apartment. Right? I'm not saying people automatically turn to crime, but there
Yep.
is a good, there is a
It's
maybe 5%
a,
of the population. There's a
it's a
5% of the population that will automatically say, "F this shit. I'm gonna go out and get mine." And guess what? Mine is. Mine is yours,
beg, borrow, and steal.
right?
Beg, borrow, and steal. Yep. When people get desperate, that's what happens, right? And that's the difference between sympathetic people and empathetic people. Sympathetic people can only relate to things that they have been through, right? Empathetic people can put themselves in other people's shoes. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I get it.
So, and there are a lot more sympathetic people out there than there are empathetic people out there. They can only understand when they're actually the ones going through it. They'll chastise everybody else as long as they have not experienced that, right? As long as they're not the ones going through that. They'll chastise other people, they'll judge other people, but they won't look at what it's like to be in that situation and go through that same thing. And that's the difference between sympathetic and empathetic people. And
100%.
that's the society that we live in. That is the society that we live in,
Well,
right?
I mean, the society that we live in, they pick and choose what we should be we should have empathy for and what we shouldn't have empathy for. And I
Exactly.
mean, again, I won't go too far down in the rabbit hole with this, but we do live in a society that picks and chooses the causes they want to stand for and the ones they want to let go to the wayside and kind of, for lack of better English, get in the shitters because they don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. When you want to compare, and I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there. When you want to compare racial issues to um, identity and perceived identity and sexual orientation and things like that, there's a difference there because my ethnicity was predetermined before I was born. My ethnicity was predetermined before I was born. My mother is black, my father is black. And when they decided to have a child together, right? Long before I was born, before I came down the birth canal, anything, right? It was already a known fact that I was going to be black, and there was nothing that I was going to be able to do about this, right? So when you want to compare that to things that you can keep to yourself, you can keep. I can't hide the fact that I'm black. How do I hide that? How do I hide that other than prosthetics and makeup? Right? It doesn't change my mindset. It doesn't change my personality. I might speak a certain way, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm black. I represent my community. You know what I mean? So certain things cannot be compared, no matter how much you want to compare them and want to act like, this should be level and this should be. No, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Keep Compare apples to apples, compare
So
oranges to oranges.
I'm going to give
Yeah.
you an example now. About maybe 2021, I'm going to say during COVID, a young black lady, young black girl, came on TV and said she identified as white. They had her on Dr. Phil. They treated her like she had mental issues because she told people she was white. Okay, let's keep this in mind. People lost their mind, and I mean, people were
Remember,
chastising her and telling her to get help. That's
she
only that, that's only. Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish. Hold on. That was only 3 years ago. Fast forward to 2024, we currently have kids telling teachers that their cats, their dogs, and they need to shit in a friggin' litter box or they need to shit outside. And nobody says they need to get mental help. So let me understand this. I want to be another race, which is human being. That's crazy. But if I want to be a cat or dog, shit in a litter box, that's okay. This is why I said there's something wrong or something going on in society, right? Where do you take your stance?
remember Rachel Dolezal?
Yes,
Yeah, the white lady that perceived herself as black and went on this whole
back in
campaign.
2012 or 2013,
I
somewhere
don't
around there.
know when it was when she was outed, but I believe she was outed by her parents, right? They put out her high school yearbook photo, and she was like a total white girl, but she perceived herself as black, and she was working for the NAACP out in Spokane, Washington, and her whole life was turned upside down because she tried to pass herself off as a black woman and she was outed, right? Fast forward to now, like you said, right? There are people running around talking about they're visibly Caucasian, but they identify, and that's supposed to be um, I don't want to say catered to, but accepted, right? And we're supposed to accept it for what it is and respect people's views and the way that they perceive themselves and their self-identification, right? So if you self-identify as a cat or a dog or as a different race than what you're supposed to be or a different gender than what you were born as, right? I'm not going to go as far as assigned, born as, then you know this is being catered to. But she was drugged over the coals over this 10 years ago. Where are we at now? What's really happening now? What is the point of this? That's what I want to know. What is the point of this? Where are we going with this?
Right
Because it's
now,
totally turned. The
mhm,
tables have totally, totally, totally turned, right? But like you said, the black girl that saw herself as white, talking about she when she looks in the mirror, she sees a white girl, she sees this, she sees that, and she was visibly black. She wasn't even light skinned. Okay, this girl was visibly black, but she sees herself as a white girl. Fine, whatever, right? But she's in front of Dr. Phil because obviously they feel like she has some sort of mental illness, right? So it looks like it
changing
looks
your race. So let's call it changing your race is a no-no. That's not cool to do that. But calling yourself a dog or a cat, that's okay. I'm calling
no.
it for what it. Hold on. I'm calling it for what it is. Right? Let's not whitewash the issue and say it's not what it is. It is what it is. So when it comes down to the racial issue, it's not cool. Maybe you have something going on upstairs. Maybe you should talk to somebody. But if it's a dog or a cat, it's okay. Okay.
But hold on, but the Rachel Dolezal thing was years ago, right? There have been white people that identify as black recently that they're not being treated the same way as Rachel Dolezal was. It's being accommodated because that's how they feel, and you can't
True.
tell
True.
people. You know what I mean? It's only if a black person now decides that they identify as white, it's a problem. It's a mental health issue. You're going in front of Dr. Phil. But all these white
Yeah.
people that want to identify as black, none of them, how many white people, aside from Bad Baby, right, that try to identify or appropriate black culture, go in front of Dr. Phil, get put in front of Dr. Phil, right? Get their mental health questioned. Can we talk about what this really is? This is a one-sided thing. This particular, the race thing is a one-sided thing. It's only a problem because, and I mean, I have an issue with it because I don't know why you would want to be a white chick in the first fucking place, right? I don't. But anyways, I the black woman is the strongest woman on the planet. I don't give a shit what anybody has to say. That's how I feel. Anybody who has any issues with that, drop it in the motherfucking comments. We can discuss that shit, right? But we have to deal with all of this shit. We have to deal with the persecution of ourselves, and we have to uplift the black men that are persecuted, that shun us, right? That end up shunning us for other fucking cultures, anyways, when they're ready. Not all, not all. I'm not gonna say all, right? But we still have your back regardless. Who has the back of a black man more than a black woman? That wasn't rhetorical. I'm asking you as a black man.
Well, I agree. I'm not in disagree. If I disagreed, I would have piped up and said something else. And you know what? At the end of the day, we all have to do our part in terms of, you know what, be who you are at the end of the day and stand up for what you believe in, right? And that ultimately comes back to what I was saying before. If we have our beliefs and we have our belief systems, you believe in what you want to believe and you stand up for what you believe. With that being said, it doesn't give you the right to put down, verbally
First,
assault, persecute, or treat anyone like shit.
yes, exactly, exactly.
That never gives you the right to do that. You can be see. So here's I was on a tr- I was I'm gonna just change this up for a little bit just to
You're
give
going.
you an example.
So where are you going?
There was a discussion about Noah Lyles compared to Usain Bolt, and they're like Usain Bolt was cocky. He did this. He did this. I said I've never heard Usain Bolt in an interview tell his competitors, "Shut the f up! You guys are all running for second place." Maybe the F, he didn't say the F, but he said, y'all guys are running for second place. Usain Bolt always came out and said, I'm going out there to do my best. And if my best is getting there, being able to win, I win. Noah Lyles came out and told his competitors, y'all going to be running behind me because if I'm off that turn, y'all finishing second, third. So there's a difference between being confident and being cocky. Telling everybody else that you're going to beat them is cocky. That is cocky. That is not confidence. Confidence is telling you're not putting anybody down when you're saying, you know what? If my best today is winning, then that's what I'm going to do today. You're not putting anybody. You're pumping yourself up. So there's a difference between being cocky and being confident. And I
Confident.
think that gets lost in translation. People miscue the lines. So everyone was because I was in this forum and they're going, Usain Bolt was this, and I'm like, Jesus, look at how he's giving people dabs before the race. He was doing it in a playful way. He wasn't standing there beating his chest. So the people that were holding his blocks, he'd give them a high five. Playful. I never saw it as being cocky. He wasn't looking at his competitors and going like, doing stuff like this, like, yeah, I got you. That's not cocky. It's a humble guy going out there doing his thing, playful. I don't know
Yep.
if you watched track and field for years. Prior to Usain Bolt coming along, everybody stood at the starting line like this.
Mm-hmm.
One bag of school face. If you don't believe me, go watch the 96 Olympics.
Trust
Everybody
me.
stood like this. Everybody was puffed up. You watch the Olympics now, guys are like, everybody's happy, laughing. Usain Bolt, you can thank for that. Guys weren't doing all that stuff before. Everybody was, even, I'll be honest, I used to be a track athlete. I had that same mentality too. The puff your chest out and look real confident and try to intimidate everybody with your body looks and go out there and just do your thing. He
Mm-hmm.
changed that. He kind of put everybody at ease. So in a way, I feel he did the sport of justice by people just came out, well, do your thing. Who cares? No one allows what no one allows does. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great athlete. I would never take anything away from him. But with that being said, he's really cocky.
Yeah.
He wins. I'm not
But
taking away from him, but he's cocky.
I find that with American track and field athletes, though. I don't find that a lot with other um, countries and their track and field athletes, but I find that a lot. When it happens, it's usually the Americans. I'm not gonna lie. That's my observation, right? That's my. I'm not trying to be too opinionated with it, but that is my genuine observation. That it's the Americans that big themselves up and they have that cocky kind of attitude. They're
And
not humble.
And you know what ends up happening? Other countries that are in race with Americans eventually start doing it back to them. And then they start calling those athletes cocky. But in reality, the reason why those athletes are doing it is because Americans were doing it. It's almost a tit for tat. You wanted to showboat and beat your chest in front of me, I'm going to do it back to you. And I'll be honest, as a track athlete, if somebody tries to show you up, you're 100% going to go out there and rub somebody's nose in it, for lack of better English.
Absolutely. And that's why I feel like in a role of leadership now, again, coming back to respect versus fear, right? Because when people fear you, they're going to try to take you out. If they respect you, they're going to try to build you up, right? There's a difference. So lead with respect rather than fear. Nobody wants to live in fear. As much as they do it, they'll only do it for a certain time. Nobody wants to live in fear. So if there's a person in a leadership role and they are feared by the people that follow them, those people are eventually going to look for a way to take them out. If they're respected by the people that follow them, those people will continue to build them up and follow them. That's what it is, right? I feel like that's the importance in leadership between respect and fear. You disagree?
No, I agree.
Okay. So, yeah, we've gotten quite into that. We want to talk about something positive on a, I don't know. Let's focus on mental health for a second because we do this from time to time. When we're closing off, we usually, check in on your loved ones, make sure everything's okay. A lot of people are going through a lot of different things right now, right? And as a person myself, and I'll be open here, that suffers with anxiety and depression, people often misunderstand and think that, being checked on means that you want somebody to be there so you can sound off on your problems. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. Don't avoid people that you know are going through things because you think they're just going to unload their problems on you. Most of those people don't even want to talk about their problems. And I'm speaking about this from experience. I'm not speaking for anybody else, right? But from what I've observed with other people who are going through shit, they don't want to talk about their problems. They just want to know that someone else cares and they can have a normal conversation with that person, a normal conversation about anything under the sun other than their problems, right? They just want to know that someone else cares and takes the time to have a 2 minute, 5 minute conversation with them. And during that time, they're not looking to unload about the problems because they want to escape from those problems. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to have a normal conversation because everything is so up in the air, so overwhelming. So they're going through so much things. They don't want to talk about the shit that they're going through, right? They just want to have a normal conversation. So when I say check on your loved ones, they might be a little bit draining. They might be going through things. You might think that, they're gonna offload their shit onto you, or that's not necessarily the case, right? But at the end of the day, you have no idea how much help you can provide to someone who's going through it. right? And I've been told myself that I have helped people through some really tough times in life just by being there to talk, right? Not necessarily to talk about their problems, just being there, just being that person that's there, right? I've had people tell me that I've saved their lives. And that's important. That is so important because you don't realize how much you're doing for someone when you have that little conversation with them. It's very important, right? Especially now in these times when people are losing their homes, their jobs, their lives, everything. You need to just take that time, even if it's just 5 minutes. Take that time and pay it forward for somebody else because karma never loses an address, good or bad. Karma never loses an address, right? And I'm going to segue into, I don't know if you heard the story. Well, we've talked about it, but there was a woman on a bridge ready to jump, and John Bon Jovi is our feel good moment for the evening. John Bon Jovi happened to be in the vicinity, and he and another person walked over and actually talked that woman off the ledge and saved her life. And that's big. He didn't have to do that. He could have put put his nose up in the air, and I don't have time. You could have seen it and unseen it. You know what I mean? Like how we look and look off all the time in life. All every day in life, we see something that we're like, look and look off, right? And he could have done that. He took the time to talk to this woman and saved her life. And you don't know how important that could be for someone. Even if it wasn't John Bon Jovi, it could have been a random Joe. You know what I mean? John Doe. But just to have that one person that did not want to see them go. You get what I'm saying? That's
Hmm.
important. And now this person, depending on how you look at it now, you have a story. John Bon Jovi saved my life. John Bon Jovi saved my life. When no one else cared, when no one else was there, John Bon Jovi saved my life.
Definitely living on a prayer, huh?
That's it. Living on a prayer, right?
But
It's
you're right. I will definitely segue onto that and say I am that individual where random people come up to me and talk. And I've had good fortune of hearing some really good stories, and I've had the misfortune of hearing some really, really messed up stories. And the one thing I would tell you with all the stories that I have heard over the years from all different peoples and all different walks of life is that I'm, in a way, I feel weird, but I'm kind of honored that people are comfortable coming up to me and talking to me as a stranger. Because that means they see me as an individual that I'm open to them talking to. Because people don't walk up to random. Well, in my case, I am random. But usually, if they're doing it because there's something that they'll tell you. I don't know why I'm talking to you, but I'm going to tell you this. And I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm kind of like, kind of leaning back. I listen and I don't say anything. I just listen.
an
And
energy
they're
thing.
done. And after they're done, they're like, thank you. I don't know what drew me to talking to you, but I appreciate you just listening to me. And you know what? At the end of the day, you don't have to respond to everything. And this goes back to what I was saying before. Listen.
Listen to understand.
And even if you don't agree with what the person is saying, because half of the shit people tell me, I don't agree. But it's not up for me to judge and interject. They're just telling me a story of their life. So it's not for me to interject. They're telling me what's bothering them and the decision. No, if somebody tells me they're going to go out and kill somebody, I'm going to interject. I'm going to
Yeah.
say, hey, pump your
Well,
brakes.
okay.
Yeah, you're going to kill
But
yourself. Yeah, I'll interject at that point,
the
right?
important thing is you listen to understand,
Correct.
right? You listen to even if you don't agree where the person's coming from, with where the person's coming from, you understand where they're coming from, right? And that's the thing that makes us good conversationalists because We might not necessarily agree with where you're coming from, but we can, because we listen, we can understand where you're coming from, and we can respond based on that understanding.
Listen, half sometimes when we're having our conversation, I don't agree with half the shit you say, and sometimes the actions you're gonna do, you tell me this, and I'm like, all right, well, you're not gonna hurt anybody, so fine, knock yourself out. I don't agree, but with that being said, if it's not gonna hurt you, and I don't think it's gonna put you in a worse position, because I will tell you to pump the brakes if I think it's gonna hurt you, put in a worse position. I'm not gonna correct you. I'm gonna be like, hey, do you, man? You know, if that's what you want to do, go for it. As long as it won't hurt you or put you in a worse position. So you're not going to agree, and it's not anybody's job to go out there and champion everybody's cause. I feel people have this notion: if I tell you something, now you feel obligated to like correct me. Sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes it's, I just need you as a sounding board, and that's what
Yep,
people need to understand.
exactly. That's exactly it. And to touch on what you said, that you don't agree with everything, that all the decisions that I make. It's a mutual thing, right? You'll tell me things that I might not agree with you, and I'll voice my opinion to you, and you're gonna do what you want to do regardless, right? There are times when you're like, okay, I can see where you're coming from, and there are times when you're like, fuck that shit, I'm gonna do what I want to do anyways, right? But there's a mutual respect there where we at least listen to each other to understand each other's positions so that we can respond accordingly, whether or not we agree.
But you have to admit that took time. It wasn't always like that, right? Because there was
Yes,
a point in time where I wouldn't listen to anything anybody. I'd say, go after yourself. It's my way or the highway. Take that shit and shove it up your ass. I ain't listening to a damn thing. I'm right. F everybody.
I'm glad
And
you're
you
with that.
you get to a point of maturity. I
Mhm.
won't say in life because age doesn't equal maturity. So whoever
Correct.
thinks that age equals maturity, you're full of shit. You can be a 70-year-old man and still view the world the same way you did at 20, and you're still dumb as F. Right?
You could be
So let's
70
throw that shit out there.
trying to act
And
like you're
I know individuals out there that are still dumb as F and they're grandfathers,
mhm,
grandmothers, and they're still
grandmother.
stupid. I wouldn't
Absolutely.
ask them. I wouldn't ask them for advice if I was on my last leg. Just let's put it out there. With that being
And
said, it's a level of maturity. When you get to a level of maturity where you can start separating yourself from the actual issue and look at the bigger picture,
correct. Correct.
right?
Correct.
So you have to be able to take yourself out of the scenario and say, what is the grand scheme of this?
Yes.
And where is this going to land me? What's going to happen? It's like having dominoes in a room that are all set up. You know, by pushing this, it's going to, all the other dominoes are going to fall around it. So you got to
Correct.
be able to see that before you hit that first domino. If it's going to screw your shit up, don't hit the friggin' domino. It's dumb. But there's some people, they don't think. They do it and they're like, oh shit, I just effed all my shit up. Yeah, because you didn't look at the bigger picture. You were narrow minded in your thought process, and usually it's emotional. Most people make emotional decisions. So you're angry, you punch somebody in the face. Now you go to jail. What did that get you? You just lost your job. You got a wife and the kids, or ladies, same shit. Now you put yourself in that water. Think. You got to think first, man.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the biggest one is even if it's not violence, it's the verbal attacks.
It's
Because
the verbal
people love to
or
attack when
psychological
they
or
or
psychological.
psychological. They like to attack once, once they feel they've been wrong. Now you're a this or you're a that, or I never liked how you did this anyways. You don't have to do that. There's no reason for that.
And that speaks to all the people that like to, they portray themselves as positive minded, but their thought process is negative, right? Their thought process is bad minded. You can post all the positive shit you want, right? But when your first thought of everything is negative, or your first you take everything as an attack, you're not positive. All of that shit's fake, right? You can't be posting all this positivity and then every piece of constructive criticism you get is a negative attack, right? That's an attack on you. You're not positive. because people who think positively don't take it that way. Constructive criticism is exactly that, constructive criticism. And if you're a person that thinks positively, you will take it that way, exactly for what it is, constructive criticism. You're okay with self reflecting, right? People who
Mhm.
think that they're perfect and something's wrong with everybody else and they have to figure out, okay, if somebody tells me to have a good day, oh, that's a backhanded compliment. They don't really want me to have a good day. They want me to. That's more reflective on your mindset than it is on their mindset, right? If somebody's wishing you well and you're second guessing that, depending on what your interaction is with that person, right? And again, that can be based on your negative thinking because I'm not a negative person. I don't have time to wish wrong on anybody else or wish evil on anybody else. That's too much negative energy for me. I'm a person that believes in karma. So I'm either going to wish you well or I'm not even going to fucking think about you at all. Right? I don't have time to wish negative energy on you or wish that bad things happen to you because A, that takes up a lot of time that I don't have. It takes up a lot of negative thought process that I don't engage in, right? And it's bad karma. I don't have time for that. So it's either I'm going to wish you well, regardless of what you do to me, right? Or I'm just not even going to think about you at all. But I do not have time to wish anything bad on anybody else. So if I'm telling you that I wish the best for you, or I'm telling you something positive, and you want to twist that and make it about whatever is going on in your mind, that's a you thing. That has nothing to do with me, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't have time. I have no negativity towards anybody. Anybody. Because if you bring negativity into my life and I don't want to deal with you, I just won't deal with you. But I'm not sitting here thinking, I hope this happens to you and I hope this happens to you. I don't have time for that shit. I do not have time for that shit. It's I hope you change your mindset and keep it moving. Bye. That's it. That's how I feel.
I see that.
So that's all on that. We've had quite a bit of deep conversation today. We didn't really get into too much, so I don't think anybody's going to be too offended again this week. But again, I think it's important to check on your loved ones, make sure everybody's okay. And it's not about you taking on their problems. Just be that beacon of light. If you
Mhm.
can, if you have it in your capacity, just be that beacon of light. Just be that ray of positivity for somebody else. Pay it forward. That's it. Because you don't know what people are going through. I'm going through shit, but that doesn't mean that because I'm going through shit, I can't be a positive influence on somebody else, or I can't help somebody else get to where they need to be positively. I just need to get away from my shit for a moment. You know what I mean? I regroup, I think, I process, and I move forward, right?
Well, I'm gonna leave you with this. Charity starts at home. And if you wait till you have enough to be able to give somebody, you'll probably never be able to give. So a lot of times you're going to be helping people. Sometimes they may even have maybe financially more than you. Maybe they have more family more than you. But the reality is at that point in time, they need something that you have. And if you can help them, you help them. Regardless of the circumstance, whether they have more family, whether they have a boyfriend, girlfriend, whether they have kids, it doesn't matter. If they're in that time of need, you help them. Anything outside of that is just not right.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
I'm
not
gonna
right.
try not to turn your back on somebody in need. Try not to turn your back on somebody. You never know how that little bit could help. You never know. So, with that being said, we're going to leave you here and we'll leave the rest for next time. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Shits and Giggles, right? Like, subscribe.
Wasn't too much to giggle about, but a lot of shit was going down, so it's all good.
We didn't have a lot to giggle about this week. It was a little bit heavy this week, but we appreciate you. We appreciate your feedback. Again, like, subscribe, comment. Please feel free to comment. Comment. Anything that you'd like us to discuss, if you want us to debate something, let us know. Put it in the comments. We'll be more than happy to do that. We'll be more than happy to do that for us and for your entertainment as well. Thank you.